Today, we have new 3D AI, which is better than Trellis 2 and might be an open source. NVIDIA Kimodo is already in ComfyUI and more ComfyUI updates. New free 3D AI, MCP 3D skills taking over 3D, and leaks about Seedance 3.0. In this episode with Philip.
Alright, great. So first news is that we have neural fur. And neural fur is a completely new approach and really interesting because this one is aiming basically to generate fur and groom with using neural networks. And this is of course great because so far we always saw only generation techniques for 3D models that didn't have like any real fur or hairs. And this one is trying to solve that issue. And as you can see, this is of course not optimal, but it's a starting point because you will see that it tries to generate basically hair and strands from 2D images, which is of course huge because this is actually something completely new and first seen. And you will see here they made some comparisons. So basically you will see that we have here the image, and we have here as well some other approaches from other models like for example Gen Zoo and Gaussian haircut. And you will actually see that neural fur is kind of able to, read the fur from our 2D image and then apply it on the 3D character. And this is of course super interesting to see that we have this now as an option, that there is also development in this area, that at some point we could even then create a fur with AI, which is of course really cool to see. It can even read physics. So as you can see here, they made some tests with physics simulations. So you will see that when wind is coming in, it will react to that. Same thing is here with retargeting to animations where it will try to fit that fur on it. And you will also see it here that you can even then edit the fur with, basically to have it longer on certain spots like tail here, for example, or in the face to increase it or decrease it. You will also notice that they released some code of here, at least, that you can use this here with 3D Gaussian splatting, which is of course really cool with a reconstruction from the multi-view images. So definitely something worth to check out.
Okay, so we're gonna start with Node3D, a very promising paper which shows a sort of revolution of adding another layer to classic approach of 3D, which claimed to better understand the logic of 3D structures. We already had 3D reconstruction with SAM 3D, Trellis, but this one claims to be even better, and we are not sure yet, but it is potentially open source, and that is super exciting. So from the examples that they provide, we can see the difference, how it understands the parts that it doesn't see. And this is great. It means 3D AI will understand and generate more complex structures, way more logical. You can take a look on the examples yourself. If they open source it, we'll definitely make a guide about it.
Next up, we do have Pascal Editor. And this is also really cool to see because it's basically able that you can, generate walls and buildings and, like props and place them directly into your shot. And this is of course really great for architectural visualization and so on. And you can work with this really nicely and just, it works as a kind of drag and drop option. You can duplicate models around and so on, which I think is really cool and interesting to see. And best thing is we have this as well as a ComfyUI node now. So you will see here Terry Jaya, which is doing really amazing works always, and he is publishing stuff really fast, did here actually a ComfyUI-PascalEditor. So you will see that we have the interface basically as a node here, and you can also directly export it then as a GLB file, STL or OBJ file once you assembled all those parts. Make sure to test it out yourself and let me know down below in case you find it useful.
Next up, we have a lot of news from 3D AI developers that they're making the agents that will cook a lot for yourself. For example, we have this tweet from Meshy that they show that there is Meshy MCP where you can do the whole workflow and export like model ready for the 3D prints. But that's not a big news. For example, there is blender-mcp that exists for a year or more, and Rodin was frankly first to provide free API key. Yeah, not the frontier model, but still, and you were able to generate models with that. So if you ever wanted to try it, it's actually absolutely free. You can plug it to Claude or even ChatGPT. Another hype train is of course OpenClaw, and Hitem 3D, for example, brought Hitem 3D skills to open ClawHub so you can test it out. They also showed some use cases. Well, this is great and much expected. I'm thinking to make video about it, but I need the real use case first.
Then next up we have another ComfyUI news, but this one is also really handy for all of us who are dealing with 3D in ComfyUI, because this one is the ComfyUI 3D Viewer Pro. And this one is also really cool. I just discovered this a few days ago. It was also shared on our free Discord server, which you can also, by the way, find down below to join directly. It was made by Brandon Dunwell, and you will see here, by the way, in this short preview video, that, for example, we can directly load up then here our FBX file or GLB file that we generated. It will give you here as well different options, to choose, and it's almost real time because it's super fast and handy to load stuff in. And you can then also spin around your models. You can even transform them, because you will have now handles then in ComfyUI basically to scale up our 3D model, rotate it and transform it in space. And you will also see here, for example, that you can then shift it around and play with it. And this is of course a really cool way to judge our 3D model directly in ComfyUI. You can even do professional multipass rendering, so you will see that we get here a normal map as well as the wireframe image and mask images and so on. So really cool stuff, definitely. And you will also see here that you have then multipass composition, which is of course really cool because we can then assemble different renderings together in ComfyUI. And what I find also a really neat feature is that you can, for example, in theory, even rendering a turntable out of ComfyUI directly from your generated 3D model, which is of course also really handy to share it with others basically.
One more interesting news is that we have new 3D AI. It's not completely new foundation model, but they do fine-tuning on themselves from my knowledge. So what do we have here? From the example I saw, it is actually good. And the interesting thing is that they do have studio. We have basic settings like the poly count control. The minimum is, by the way, 15K. Up to 4K texture support, PBR. You can do also texture, multi-view, and there's also remesh, basically just for remesh. The great thing that right now they actually giving Pro for free. So everyone who will subscribe right now, I don't know for how long, but they give you quite a lot of credits. If one generation costs 20 credits, you can create almost 50 models for free. That's quite generous and the quality is quite nice. And of course, you can already go to Top 3D AI and compare this model with any other exist. We already added that and you can check on leaderboard how it performs. And I must say it's not that bad, especially for free.
Next up, we do have Hunyuan 3D 3.0 and 3.1 now in ComfyUI via API. And this is also really great to see because TencentCloud and ComfyUI, they partnered up together, as you can see here. So really cool to see that they now, working together globally to implement ComfyUI more and more into their system. You will also see that here basically, so that we can now use the nodes basically just by drag and drop them into ComfyUI Hunyuan 3D. And this is based on their cloud model, but you can also at least use it locally via credits. In case you would like to learn more about it, I also made a detailed video on my channel, which you can check out directly here.
Another hyped news was around web coding platforms that can develop 3D games or 3D websites, such as Omma AI, which was released by Spline. So basically, it's like an agent that allow you to work with 3D. Spline is quite nice editor, web editor, where you can do stuff with 3D, create some pages, and not a surprise, they decided to create it as a web coding tool. We tested it with the team, and I would say it's cool, but it's not really that usable. You'll have to do quite a lot of prompting until you get something really working. And we have similar tool exactly, which is called Arcade Studio, which also allow you to build 3D website. Cool thing about it that here you can sort of like remix other 3D website, which is actually very fun. Here I was able to actually play around with this stuff, and there are templates. You can actually create a portfolio website and stuff. So pretty basic stuff. Again, it looks cool. Definitely give it a try. You can try it for free, but it's a bit far from real use case, and to get something really custom, you'll have to prompt quite a lot. I would say I'd rather vibe code it with Claude from scratch without any platform independently, and I'll most likely do the same. But let me know what you think about it, guys.
And then as a last thing, we do have now Kimodo in ComfyUI, which is of course also amazing because last week we covered it briefly that it's now available, but now we do have it actually in ComfyUI itself, which is of course really cool because then we can combine it, or we can generate animations inside ComfyUI and then also attach it, for example, to our 3D characters. In case you would like to see more about it and would like to see it in a video, then let me know down below. And one good example you can see, by the way, also here, where we then have the walking girl inside the node, and you will see that it's based on Kimodo, basically.
Next up, we have another promising model, which called See-trough. Interesting title. So what is it about is that it helps to split anime into layers. I don't know why exactly anime, but that's might be useful for everything. For anime specifically, it helps to do a proper decomposition of any character into the layers, what they say 2.5D models. So here you can see a few examples, and that's really good. That will be useful. Let's see where it goes. I made a video about Asset Hub where they introduced a tool, node-based tool, where you can split one image, one character into parts, and people really appreciate it, which is very cool. Hopefully this is the same direction. And finally, guys, we do have leaks about Seedance 3.0. Well, I know Seedance 2.0 just released globally this week, but in China it was actually released 2 months ago. And what they say, AI will be able to create up to 18 minutes video. That's insane. And my question is, would 3D still be relevant if video AI can do such an amazing work? I don't know, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think.
Alright, this was it for this week's news episode. As always, let us know down below in case you have liked this video. Make sure to subscribe to Stefan's channel and my channel so we can keep doing what we're doing. And as always, see you on the next one.
And that was it for today, guys. See ya.